Okay, good morning. This is the council update from Monday, June 22nd council meeting. I'll start just by talking a little bit about the previous weekend, the June 20th community celebration we had down in the park, which was an enormous success. There was a ton of people down there, and thanks to the Red Cross and Atco Gas and Fortis Alberta for their part in making that day happen. As well as thanks very much to Lori McCarroll with Down to High River and the amount of work that she put into doing that. It was an excellent day. The four bands that played were incredible. The weather was great until the very, very end, but even at that, it wasn't all that bad. So thanks very much to everybody that put their time and effort into coming down and those that made it happen. So following that, right off the start, Minister Darren Billis came down, Municipal Affairs Minister. He did a quick speech, and then we took off and took him on a tour around High River and hit primarily the main areas of Wallaceville and talking about the demolition, and I'll get into that a little bit further on into the council meeting. But Wallaceville, the Centre Street Bridge project, the two buyouts that we're trying to stop in the northwest, which is Riverside Drive and the Highview Park area. And then we toured around through the Hamptons, gave them a little overview there, and then down and talked about the Southwest Berm. While we were doing all the driving around, Councillor Masterman and Jim Ross were with us from the DRP Advocacy Committee, and they made a very strong case to the Minister that this needs to get fixed. It can be fixed quite easily. It takes some decision-making power, and it takes some guts to make some decisions happen immediately, and this can be handled. It's not, I've said it 1,000 times, this isn't rocket science, and it's just got to get dealt with and quit being mired in meaningless, petty policies that are putting people. I could go on forever. Everybody knows my speech on that. So anyways, that was a great day. I was very encouraged by the minister's attitude towards the whole thing. The types of questions that he asked were music to my ears. He wants to understand it, he wants to know the history of it, and he wants to know how to make it go forward and make this all happen. So since then, yesterday or Monday, or yesterday morning, Tuesday morning, we got confirmation in regards to the Southwest Berm project that they have funded us for the engineering and design costs with that, which is great news because that tells me that it's moving forward and going to happen. So anyways, going back to the council meeting, first thing we did, we had a public hearing regarding a secondary suite in Sunshine area. The secondary suite thing, I talked about it last time, and I've talked to our administration about it, because we put all this stuff on hold, but these guys had applied and then we put them on hold, and because this policy is taking so long to get back to council, I said, well, we can't let these guys be hung out on a limb here for another year, which it won't take to do that, but it has been a year, and so I said, let's just get this one through, and you know, it's at those guys' risk whether council approves or disapproves of their secondary suite, so without this policy being in place. So we did the public hearing. There were arguments for and against, but away we go. So council will be making their decision at the July 16th, I think it is, special meeting of council that we've arranged just to deal with some other issues in regards to our recovery. So there's a special meeting in July, and we'll go from there. 3 delegations came in, one from the High River Scouts. Now the High River Scouts are looking to relocate from the little old log cabin that's downtown. That building is just not salvageable anymore, and has been past its lifespan for quite a while. So they're looking to build a new building, not relocate that one, build a new building. And So where they're looking is just the town owns a triangle lot just across from Spitzy School along McLeod Trail. And we've offered that property to them to see if they can make that work. It's very important that the Scouts and Cubs and Beavers and Guides and Brownies to be close to downtown, primarily close to George Lane Park. They use that a lot. And they just want to be kind of part of that downtown area where it always has been. So Susan Lukey and Jason Clark came in and just talked to us about their plans, and they're moving forward on that with our planning department to see how the building could fit and how big the building would be and how it works and everything else. There'll be a large fundraising component to this, so keep your eyes and ears open for when that comes. So they're doing a great job. Next delegation was with the Urban Chickens and Urban Bees project. That was just a delegation that came to council. There's a ton of information that I've posted on my web or on my Facebook page about it, and other councillors have posted their thoughts on their Facebook pages. But this one it's kind of goofy to me as to how contentious and controversial this one gets with other communities, and I don't really get why there's so much time spent on it. I think it's a decision that council needs to make at our next meeting in July 23rd or whatever it is. And we're just going to make the decision, yes or no, and move on. I don't think it's something that we go into pilot projects and just waste a whole bunch of council's time when we got bigger things to worry about. It's a yes or no vote and away we go. So I got my own thoughts on it. You're more than welcome to come to the council meeting and hear them. The next one after that is Samaritan's Purse Canada, and it was Samaritan's Purse, Mennonite Disaster Services, and World Renewed. Just came and gave us a quick update that they are winding down their operation. It's bittersweet because we absolutely loved having these organizations in High River, and we would not be as far along with our people without these organizations. There is no doubt in my mind, and I know certain people that have had these groups in their homes. I know some of these people very, very well, and there is no way that they would be where they are today without these organizations, and that goes for the whole town. It's all one machine that has to work together. So I can't thank these guys enough, and council gave them huge kudos for being around and dealing with this. So we don't like to see them leave, but we're more than happy they're leaving because they're done their work from the disaster. So it's good news, but there's the sad side of it too. We did some adoption of the minutes from the last meeting. The tax penalty bylaw is one that we went through, and this is one that is very good because the previous bylaw wasn't set up properly. They were very, very aggressive, steep penalties. If you missed by a month, you were nailed with 18%. You know, and some people forget, and some people just aren't able to get to that for a month or two. Well, there's a penalty that needs to be applied, but not immediately nailing with 18%. It just wasn't. It's old school stuff that our CFO wasn't comfortable with. So what we've done is just changed it to a standard business practice. It's 1.5% per month following the due date, and we go from there. So it's not an issue for 99% of people. We pay our taxes and away we go, and it's like speeding. Don't speed, you don't get a ticket. So same kind of thing, but there are people that are in certain circumstances that this is very important to. We looked at the ATCO gas franchise agreement. That's just standard housekeeping issue with a 10-year natural gas distribution system franchise agreement between ATCO Gas and the town of High River. So it's just the agreement with their pipelines and everything else around town, and standard boring stuff actually. So Minor textual amendments to land use bylaw 4306 2011. This is just a bylaw and tidying up the verbiage and bringing it on into the into new language that's used. Land use bylaw amendment for the Spitzy Crossing land use districts. This is one that Christy Bunder brought to council last meeting. Talked about the Spitzy Crossing development, and they want specific land use zones that are different than the rest of town for good reason. Like, I like what they're doing with their developments, mixed use, and not being so strict with exactly what goes in, which I think is very important, because there is a couple of black eyes in High River. I can get into that later, but as far as little pockets of me only, but this one I'm okay with where their development is going and how they're looking at this. I don't know why we have to create more zones. We've already got 19. This would create about up to 26. It's just getting a little too thick in some of our minds. So this motion was defeated by a 4-3 vote. So we've just asked planning to work with Longview Urban Planning, I think they're called, to come up with something that fits more with the rest of High River, or how are we going to do this. So all the zones currently maybe just need to be adjusted a little bit to fit this. Amendment to historical designation. This was for the Garrett residence on 8th Street Southwest. We did give it historical municipal designation last meeting. There was one little chunk that was missed that wasn't allowing these people to move forward. The other one is with the W.O. Mitchell House. That one is, we just missed that other little chunk on it. So we did that so those guys can move forward on that. Environmental reserve transferred to the Crown. That's just more of the town-owned Wallaceville properties. We have to remove the environmental reserve and everything else to get that moving forward on our end. Servicing agreement with Red Tail Rise. And there's going to be people that will ask questions about this one, but we have to enter into a servicing agreement, water, sewer, etc., because currently it's an MD kind of development. Yes, we are annexing it, and all that paperwork is in the hands of the Alberta government right now. We're working through that. The town of High River and the MD of Foothills are both on side with this annexation, so moving ahead with the servicing agreement just stops it from everything being delayed for another 6 months or a year. So we are very, very confident in the annexation process that this will be a part of the town of High River, and away we go. There's previous rules that said the town of High River will not provide water to MD subdivisions, residential subdivisions. And I'm okay with that. But this one's going to be in the town of High River, so we just moved this thing forward. Very confident on that one. Restricted surplus. This is a very, very critical part of our financial plan that council and administration is building. And what Tom brought to us was just a way to allocate reserve funds to specific areas, divided between operating expenses and or operating reserves and capital reserves. So operating reserves, those are things like street cleaning and snow plowing. If we have leftover from one year, like we would from this year, that gets carried over, put into a reserve so that we can use it on heavier snow years. So little things like that are critical to making our bank account work properly. And the other one is with capital infrastructure. We've talked about that before, the 2% that's going on everybody's taxes this year. We have $500 million in infrastructure, and we need to have money set aside so that we can do constant maintenance and replacement on those kinds of things. So this reserve policy was definitely unanimously carried forward. So you'll learn more about that if you want on the town website. Community gardens, this was just Sarah brought it to us for the town of High River to create 2 more community gardens. There's only one right now out in Shepherd Family Park. There's a waiting list on there. It's packed every year, so we want a couple others that are scattered around town a little bit. And so they're moving forward, just creating a committee to start dealing with that and finding spaces and getting them built. So next one, 2nd Ave to 20th Street connector update. This is the road that goes from the entrance to the Hamptons and Sunshine area, that goes east to 20th Street and goes around. We've got a big problem right now with that road not being open, that there is a massive amount of traffic going through the Hamptons to get her back around to 498. We've got to get this road open somehow. I apologize, it's not going to be paved. It'll be gravelled, and hopefully we get some asphalt chip on that so that there's no dust and everything. Regardless, we'll do something to keep the dust down. But the important thing is just to get that road open so that people have an easier way of getting around and rather going through that neighborhood. That will be starting at this point in time within the next 2 or 3 weeks. Go from there. Our hazard risk and vulnerability assessment. This was an assessment on everything to do with the town of High River. This isn't just flood hazard. This is, your infrastructure, IT services, all those kinds of things, your fire department, everything. So we've done all of that and put it on into a document that's available on our website as well. Community Futures Highwood, this was just appointing Councillor Brankovich and Mr. Al Gillis as voting members of Community Future Highwood. Going to the Wallaceville motions. A lot of people have been asking me, what's going on with Wallaceville? Why haven't you tore it down yet? It's an eyesore, it looks like crap, everything else. We all know that. We're all very aware of that. Council more so than anybody. There's nobody that wants that cleaned up more than council. It is not our responsibility or our job to clean that up. This is all in the hands of the government of Alberta. I've been asking questions all along as to whether the buyout holdouts are creating delays. It came clear on Monday or Saturday when we were touring the minister around with a couple of the infrastructure bureaucrats that is the case, and it is holding things up. So that does not impress me at all, and if those people want to stay in there, it's my own personal opinion. You want to stay in there and you want to be a holdout, that's just fine. We're demolishing everything else around you, and the town will be looking into different things as far as shutting our services on. The writing's on the wall, the reality is there. Let's move forward, people. And so what we did and what the government asked us to do is take it through our council meeting and said, how fast can you guys put something through council to give us direction and allow us to lead it again? So I said, well, we'll do it on Monday. So it's done. So there was 2 motions. First one was just a motion, and I'll read it, that the town of High River supports all efforts of the government of Alberta, including expropriation, to complete the property acquisition in Wallaceville in a manner that is fair to those in Wallaceville who have already agreed to sell their properties. So what that means is we've given the government the go-ahead to do anything in their means to get those 2 properties dealt with. What cannot happen, and we've been very clear about this, is that those 2 properties are not allowed to receive 10 cents more than anybody else, according to their home values, that anybody else received that have already taken that. Just because you held out doesn't mean you get more money. The second motion is that council supports the government of Alberta in expediting the demolition of the Wallaceville properties starting no later than July 15th, 2015. That's the other thing that's been going on and on and on. So we were told, no, November it'll start, no, December it'll start, January, February, we go through the next 8 months. Then when we were having the meeting on Saturday, it came to my attention that, well, it's going to start in August. This is getting too late. They've committed to have it done by the end of December. I'm getting nervous on that, though. So again, they asked for a motion looking for some direction there. There is a ton of work that can be done that is nowhere near these two properties. There's the 7 or 8 houses that are north of the roadhouse. There's the roadhouse itself. There's a cleanup on the old town properties on the west side of Center Street. There's the condos. Everybody knows the layout of the land out there. There's a ton of work that can be done rather than just letting it sit there until these two are dealt with. Will it happen on July 15th? That's completely up to the government. That's our ask to them. But again, it's their program, so we'll be keeping the heat on that one, because we all want it dealt with too, people. So we're with you. Going from there, that was about it. Actually, there was an in-camera session that we talked about, but then we came back out, and that was the hazard, risk, and vulnerability assessment motion to accept that report. And lots going on in High River, and concerning the construction that's going around, I'll talk to it because it's a lot. There's no doubt, and you know, for all of us getting around, myself included, yeah, it's a pain in the butt. But I have, and council has no desire to drag this thing out for 10 years. We're being very aggressive with it and getting at it and making it happen so that we're only dealing with this gong show for a couple of years. Get downtown done, get 2nd Avenue done, 5th Street is going to be open this week. The roundabout is being redone, all of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of work being done, but it's good. We have to move this thing forward fast to speed up our recovery and to get this town back in shape. So let's commit to it. Let's do it now. It's inconvenient, I know, but let's get it done and move forward. So it's all positive. It's great stuff, and it has to happen, and it's great for High River in our future. So 2 thumbs up, rock and roll. See you soon.